Hi, my name's Penny, and as usual, I'm here to talk about some bookish things. Specifically, today we're going to be building my TBR for January. Now, as usual, I am going to be using my TBR machine to pick some of the books for that TBR, but I'm going to make things a little bit more rule-based, a little bit less chaotic for 2020, because I am going to be going back to work in 2020, and so I need to stop my TBRs from being too crazy. But I also still want to try and meet my reading goals. So, with that in mind, what we're going to be doing from now on is we're just going to be picking 3 books using the TBR machine, because I worked out that right now I have 71 books on my physical unread TBR shelves, and so if I read 3 a month, then by the end of the month we'll be down to about 35. Which is a good number. I'm also going to try and pick up some of these books on audiobook, so hopefully we can get it down under 30, which would be a nice number. We're also going to make the rule that if I don't read one of the books during the month, I have to unhaul a book. It doesn't have to be the one that I didn't read, but I have to unhaul a book. And if I buy a book during the month, then I have to read an extra book from the shelves in the following month. So hopefully that will discourage me from buying too many books. I'm usually pretty good except for that one month where I go to the book fair and buy like 1 million, so check in around July and see me with a complete disaster on my hands. But anyway, that's how we're going to do things. I'll also have library books and just other random audiobooks from the library. But before I get into my library books for January, let's pick 3 books using the TBR machine. So the first prompt is to read a book by your favorite author. For starters, I'm no good at having single favorites, because there's just so many things that are good in different ways, and how can you compare things that are good in different ways? Anyway, let me go have a look at my TBR shelves and work out which authors I could argue are favorites. Okay, I picked one. So right now I'm actually reading Call Down the Hawk by Maggie Stiefvater. Well, probably by the time I post this video, I should have finished it. But I'm reading it right now, and it's just reminding me how much I love Maggie Stiefvater's writing. So on my physical TBR, I have All the Crooked Saints by Maggie Stiefvater. Now, I know this isn't her best work. She recently published an article about her health issues that she was having while she wrote this book, and she doesn't think it's her best work either. And I did actually try to read this a while back, but in audiobook form, and even though I normally say that Maggie Stiefvater's audiobooks are the most amazing audiobooks ever, I was finding it really hard to follow. So I want to read it in physical form, but I just hadn't found the time to do so yet. So this will be going on my TBR for January. Let's pick another book. Read a book with pink on the cover. Okay, so there's actually very few books on my shelves that have pink on them. A couple of them that are there are books in a series where I haven't read the previous books soon. We really are going to get into the problem this year where I don't have books on my TBR that meet some of these prompts. I don't know what I'm going to do in that situation, because the goal is still to get my physical TBR shelf down. So I guess we'll work that out when we hit it. But for now, pink on the cover. This one does have pink text, so it's The Memory Keeper's Daughter by Kim Edwards. This is a book my mum gave me. Look, she bought it new. It's even got a price tag on it. So this seems to be a story about a child being born with Down syndrome, and the father telling the wife that the child died, but then actually secretly raising them. Wow, this book sounds like it's going to be awful and make me cry. But that's what we're going to read. Okay, one last prompt from the TBR machine. Read a book with a protagonist who is different from you, e.g. in gender, ethnicity, sexuality, or ability. Now, we'll see what we can find, but I know that the books left on my TBR are less and less diverse as we get through them. Also, I hate prompts like this because, like, a lot of the times these kind of things aren't written in the synopsis. So how do you even know? Okay, so what I've picked is Chinese Cinderella and the Secret Dragon Society by Adeline Yen Ma. This I've actually had on a couple of TBRs recently, so when I saw it I thought, wow, I really should get to that, because I recently read the first book in the series. So the first book is actually kind of a true memoir of Adeline Yen Ma being raised in China during the war. I forget which war. But this story is more a fantastical continuation of that story. But But since I read the first book recently, I really do need to get to the second book rather than waiting like a massive amount of time and then not remembering what happened. So we're going to read this. Obviously, it's got Chinese characters who are different from me. I did actually learn a fair amount about Chinese culture and China in the first book. Since this one is fantastical, I'm not sure I'll learn quite as much about the culture, but maybe, because I still think it is Chinese inspired. So those will be the 3 books that we're going to pick off my physical TBR shelves for January. Also, I expect in January I'm still going to be continuing to read The Diviners by Libba Bray. I haven't even started it yet. It's going to be my holiday book, essentially, although it's my sister's copy and it's in beautiful condition, so I'm a little bit worried because I don't want to damage it. I don't know much about this other than it is a YA story about this secret magical society in New York, something about ghosts and the occult. A lot of people really like this series, and there is a read-along happening of it at the moment because the latest book in the series is coming out in 2020. I'm hoping I'll really love this and then I'll be excited about that book in 2020, although they're really long books, so I hope I don't like the series too much because then I'm going to want to push through and read them all, which will probably be difficult to do. Another library book I do have out is Frost Heart by Jamie Littler. I actually meant to read this for the Believathon middle grade readathon that happened in November, but I didn't get it from the library until after that had finished, and I haven't managed to get to it in December. It is middle grade and there's a lot of illustrations through it, so I don't think it will take me too long to read. Just seemed to be about this boy who has missing parents and also some kind of song-based magic. I did see some mixed reviews about it, but honestly, it's middle grade, so I may as well read it because it will be quick. I am also hoping that my library will come through with my hold on Starsight by Brandon Sanderson, which is the second book in the Skyward series, which is about these humans living on this planet where they're trapped underground because these aliens keep attacking them. We're following a girl named Spencer who wants to be a pilot and help protect everybody, but because her father used to be a pilot and then flew away in the middle of a very important battle, that reputation is making it difficult for her to become a pilot. Skyward was one of my favorite books in 2019, so I'm really excited to get to that sequel. Also, audiobooks. Let's have a look. I had managed to get my audiobook list down to nothing, and then I went and added a bunch of books of my physical TBR to this list, so it's not as empty anymore. Wow, there's a lot. Let's hope I get some audiobook time in January. I probably won't have as much because we're going to be going camping, but we'll work that out, I guess. So firstly, I've got Traitor to the Throne by Elwyn Hamilton. So this is the sequel to Rebel of the Sands, which I read earlier in the year. I have it on my shelf somewhere. Oh, here. So the cover's really beautiful, and I'm really hoping that I will love this series. This one I was just a little bit iffy on, but it could get better. There's a lot of potential with the magic, which is kind of like djinn-based or genie-based type magic. Fingers crossed. I will really like the second book in the series. I know that Becca in the books really loves this series, which is why I want to love it too. I also have Ruse by Cindy Pond. So this is the second book in a duology. I don't really remember. Remember, it's set in Taipei and it's this dystopian where the world is super polluted and the poor people can't even breathe anymore and have heaps of health problems. And then in the first book, they do this kidnapping to try and get a bunch of money from the people who are making things worse. I don't remember, but if I read that, then I'll have finished the series. I also got Legend by Marie Lu, which is the first book in the Legend series, I think, which is a YA dystopian, which again, I don't remember what happens in it, but I have the book on my shelf. I know it's a really well-loved YA dystopian, but I have seen mixed reviews about it. Since it's on my physical TBR shelf, I did want to read it, but then I saw the audiobook was available, so we're going to try that way. We also have Memoirs of a Teenage Amnesiac by Gabrielle Zevin. So this is another book that my mum gave me about a girl who's woken up with amnesia, and I guess then she's just figuring out what's been going on with her life. So I'll be reading that. I also have The Murder Complex by Lindsay Cummings. So this is a horror book. I don't know why I end up reading all these books I don't even know, but I did buy this from the book fair for a couple of dollars because Lindsay Cummings wrote the Zenith series with Sasha Alsberg, who's a well-known booktuber, and I was just interested to see what Lindsay Cummings' writing was like by herself. This says it's an action-packed, blood-soaked, futuristic debut thriller. There's a young girl who's been trained to kill and survive in any situation, and then the state is controlled by the murder complex, an organization that tracks the population with precision. It's the first in a duology, so I really shouldn't be starting it, but I do want to tick it off my shelves, so I will be reading that. Then I do also have holds on a few others, but I think that will probably be plenty of audiobooks for me to listen to in January because, as I said, I'm going camping and that normally doesn't leave me a lot of time for listening to audiobooks, but we'll see what happens. So physical books wise, these will be the books that I'm reading in January. It's not too big a pile, so hopefully it is completely achievable while still allowing me to keep on top of all the other things that I want to get done in my life in January, which is primarily holidays and maybe some housework, like house tidying stuff. So let me know if you've read any of those books and maybe we can chat about them near the end of January. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching. I hope that you're having a wonderful day and I will see you next time.